Before I review Toy Story 4, let's make Forky.
I can't let you throw yourself away. I can't let you throw yourself away.
Toy Story 4, directed by Josh Cooley in his directorial debut, and is the fourth instalment in what is now the Toy Story quatrilogy, which we never thought would be the case after Toy Story 3, as well as the 21st Pixar movie overall. So Toy Story 4 takes place after the events of Toy Story 3, where the toys are happily with Bonnie, and she is starting her first day at school, and she's a little shy, so to make a friend, she makes a Forky out of a fork as she grabs, and she glues some googly eyes and some arms and legs, and she writes Bonnie on his shoe, and he becomes her toy, but he is going through a existence crisis where he is convinced he's trash, because that's what he was initially intended to be, until Bonnie made her his toy. So Woody is doing his best to convince Forky that he belongs to Bonnie, and when Bonnie goes on a road trip with her parents, Forky escapes from the RV, and Woody and Forky, they end up in an antique store, and then a carnival where where Woody reunites with Bo Peep, and she gives him this entire new outlook on what it truly means to be a toy. Toy Story, for me, is the second best animated trilogy ever made, second only to How to Train Your Dragon, but the first Toy Story back in 1995 is one of the year I was born, is still one of the most influential movies ever made, period, 24 years later. As long as I have existed, CGI animated feature films have existed because of Toy Story. And Toy Story 2 being my personal favourite Toy Story movie, as that one has the most emotionally impactful moments in the entire series, When She Loved Me. And Toy Story 3, 9 years ago, still remains one of the most perfect conclusions to a trilogy I have ever seen. And for me, this is where the Toy Story story should have ended. As Pixar initially, after Toy Story 3, had no plans for a Toy Story 4. But then, years later, John Lasseter, director of the first two Toy Stories, he pitched an idea that was so good Pixar just had to make it, according to him. Even though John Lasseter didn't get to direct Toy Story 4, Pixar agreed to greenlight it, and 9 years after Toy Story 3, here we are with the one Toy Story movie that's absolutely, positively nobody asked for. And when I heard Pixar announcing Toy Story 4, I was rolling my eyes. I was like, really, Pixar? I'm sorry, but Toy Story 4's gonna suck. It's going to ruin that beautiful ending of a Toy Story 3. And I freaking hated the trailers for this movie. I was just ranting about those trailers. I thought it looked like a rehash of Toy Story 2, and I thought it looked like a fan fiction, and I was worried sick that this may turn out even worse and more unnecessary than Cars 2, Pixar's current worst movie. Then I saw the critical reception for Toy Story 4, and it was far more positive, and they were loving it far more than I predicted they would, with a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I thought, okay, I could warm up to it, I could give it a chance if it is really the masterpiece the critics are claiming it to be. And thankfully, I liked Toy Story 4 better than I thought I was. This is thankfully not the bad Toy Story movie I fears. That being said, it is by far the weakest Toy Story movie. it's not even close to the original Toy Story trilogy. I'm sorry. And did this movie need to exist? Not exactly. But hey, it's still it's just an extra Toy Story movie that I didn't mind watching. So let me get to my positives because I have incredibly mixed feelings about Toy Story 4. The first Toy Story revolutionized CGI animation for my generation, and Toy Story 4 has taken CGI animation to a whole new level 24 years later. Since then, this movie is gorgeously animated and the best looking of the four Toy Story movies from a visual standpoint. The shots of the carnival and the sunsets, they sure look gorgeous, and the carnival was a ideal location for a Toy Story movie, and the character of Bo Peep, it is awesome to see her return, as she should have been in Toy Story 3. So at least this movie did explain where she went, because in the opening we see Bo Peep, she does move from Andy's to a new owner, and she's now become a badass, and she's changed her outfit, and she's helping toys in need, and her romance with Woody is more focused on than ever in this movie, and I was worried making her a badass wouldn't work with her character, but it does. It hugely improves her character, finally giving her a larger role, and she turned out to be my favourite character in this movie. And Forky, I was dreading. I was, please don't be the Jar Jar Binks of Toy Story, and he isn't. And he is endearing, and I love the concept of Forky, how that encourages kids to be imaginative when making friends, and it's great to see more of Bonnie. She is the most lovable little girl ever, and this movie is the funniest of the four Toy Story movies, so families can just go to the movies and be entertained by it throughout, especially Forky's lines when he's like trash, and the antique store wasn't that bad of a location either, and Gabby, she was extremely sympathetic character. What she just wanted Woody's voice box, as she just wanted what Woody had to be loved by a kid. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to the more negative part of the review, and this is where Toy Story 4 feels underwhelming in comparison to its three predecessors. Please don't hurt me. Yeah, I'm sorry, but this is to me the most overrated movie of 2019, well tied with John Wick Chapter 3 as the most overrated, as the film felt a little too light-hearted for me. It had a lack of threat in it because there is no villain. Where the heck were the great Toy Story villains in this movie? You know, like Sid, Stinky Pete, and Lotso. This movie would have had more balls had it has a intimidating antagonist. The closest we get to a threat in this movie are these dolls in the antique store. I'm like, I'm sorry, but they are the mutant toys from the first Toy Story done all wrong. I wanted Pixar to have the balls to make Toy Story 4 as dark, if not darker than Toy Story 3, to justify its existence, and they don't. I was, that's disappointing that they just made this one more kid-friendly than its original trilogy, and the plot was boring and until the third act. The third act is the best part. But before that, there's a lack of memorable moments. There's a lack of memorable lines. There's no "you are a toy." It made no sense why. And it made no sense why Bonnie would care that Forky was missing, but she doesn't care that Woody is missing. She doesn't give a damn about Woody in this movie when he was her favourite toy in Toy Story 3. And then there's the original toys, and to be perfectly honest, I forgot they even existed in this movie because they have that little screen time. And they wasted all the great original toys from Buzz to Jessie. I'm like, no, come on, Pixar, don't waste Jessie. She's my favourite. I ship Jessie and Woody more than Woody and Bo Peep. Randy Newman's soundtrack is, without a doubt, his most forgettable for this franchise. Who doesn't sing along to the frickin' timeless soundtrack from the original trilogy? With this soundtrack, Randy Newman didn't even try. The character of Duke Kaboom, Canada's greatest stuntman toy, voiced by John Wick himself, Keanu Reeves. I'm not a big fan of Keanu Reeves, so I didn't care for this character personally. And his backstory was weak, where his kid had just left him just because he couldn't make the jump and live up to his owner's expectations. I'm like that backstory is not nearly as emotional as Jessie's from Toy Story 2, and also the Bunny and Duck, they were the worst characters in this movie. I think they are the Jar Jar Binks of Toy Story, not Forky. My god, they were a chore to spend time with. They wouldn't shut up. They are nearly as annoying as Mesa from the Cars trilogy. Yeah, that's painful. And the ending is not the emotional, impactful ending that Tom Hanks and Tim Allen were promising. I honestly don't see how they were getting emotional recording the final lines for this ending, because this ending I won't spoil anything because my subscribers are begging me not to spoil this movie. In comparison to that tear-jerky ending of Toy Story 3, this ending felt half-assed and predictable, and it went against Woody's character, whereas the ending of How to Train Your Dragon 3: The Hidden World was infinity times more emotional, and How to Train Your Dragon 3: The Hidden World is an infinitely better movie. So overall, so sorry if this review came off as negative. I didn't hate Toy Story 4. It's a decentish installment in the franchise, but it's easily my least favourite Toy Story movie, and it just feels like a extended epilogue to or an extended post-credit scene to Toy Story 3. It feels like a story that we didn't need to see. But fear not, as in 2020 Pixar are finally taking a break from sequels and releasing 2 original movies, Onwards and Soul. And to be honest, I'd rather Pixar had released an original movie this year. I give Toy Story 4 3 stars out of 5. Good movie. So yeah, even though Toy Story 4 was one of my least anticipated movies this year, does it have a friend in me? Sort of. But it won't make my best list nor worst list of 2019. It's just in the middle. bring on the original movies in the 2020s Pixar. Well, I love you guys. Thank you all for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. And what do you think of Toy Story 4? And which is your favourite and least favourite Toy Story movie? Please comment and let me know. Please like this video and subscribe. Please follow me on Twitter and on Google Plus and on Instagram. And I'll see you next time when I will be reviewing one of my favourite Land Before Time sequels, The Stone of Cold Fire. And remember, movies are us. Bye, guys.